Hello, my name is Tina Ford, and I'm the founder of the Moms Group Incorporated here in Clareton, PA. And today the podcast is called Broken But Not Destroyed. The reason why I started the podcast is to spread awareness. I have 15 women that are in the Moms Group as of today. Unfortunately, we all have lost our loved ones to violence. It's a senseless act and it's a selfish act. My son name was Armani Ford, and he was killed April 26, 2019. And his murder killed my son because he wanted a prom outfit. Unfortunately, unfortunately, that is why I'm sitting here today, and I have started the Moms Group. At that moment, at that time when I went to the area where my son was murdered and laid in the street alone and by himself, my heart was rescued that day by God. From that moment, I found out that this is my journey to help other women deal with their loss of their loved ones. I started the Moms Group in July 15th, 2019, and my first meeting consists of 6 women. Now, today, I have 15 women, unfortunately, that are in my group that we meet once a month. Here today, I have one of the members. Her name is Dawn. She's a beautiful woman. I remember reaching out to her a couple of times. Unfortunately, she kept sending me to voicemail, which was okay because at that time she wasn't ready. I did receive a month later message from her, and the message was, I'm ready. And today I want to see if you all are ready to listen to our unfortunate circumstances. So Dawn is here today with her sister Tanil and her other sister Kiki. So my first question today for Dawn is, can you tell me a little bit about your loved one?
Um, JJ, he was my firstborn. Um, he was a typical kid. You know, everything was good up until he got into his teenage years and the rebellion started. And then he just, fell in with the wrong crowd. Or I wouldn't even say the wrong crowd. His surroundings, I think, is what got a hold to him. He was a he was very mannerable, very helping, loving. I don't want to say the cliche good kid, but I mean, he was my baby, and no one got the right to play God, you know. I miss him, you know. And then I have my baby boy who looked up to him. He was silly, happy. But when Joe was murdered, it's like all of our worlds turned upside down, and no, Johnny was never the same. Go to the cemetery and I'm like maybe 20 feet from each other. It's not fair, but it's life, you know.
Would you like to add to that, Tanil?
Yes. Being, I guess in my position, like an older sister, you know, um, and I also was a young mother. So, you know, we did the best we knew how as mothers, and yet still to this day we do, the best that we know how. And so, I definitely, you know, I wish that things would have been different, just a little bit, because sometimes, like we all know that the system is designed for us to fail or children to fail and everything around us to just be mediocre, and we don't dream, or we dream and it can't happen, and
Mm-hmm.
just those limited ways of living and doing. And so it's just definitely unfortunate that like one nephew gone, behind the same system and the same design, and then just the trauma behind it. Here goes another nephew. Like, are you kidding me? Like, how does this happen? But I know how it happens. And unfortunately, it takes for this to happen to demand change and, actually, you know, be a part of that change. So it's sad that they're gone.
Mhm.
It's just about, what can we do to prevent this and be, proactive in the future for the rest of my nephews and nieces and children, so, and everybody else's. And so it's definitely unfortunate. But we're here and we got another day to try to get it right.
Right.
So.
Kiki.
Well, I would call myself the good but crazy aunt. I do not play about them, especially now. They're both physically gone. Sometimes I had one person. We were talking on Facebook, and he was like, "I mean, are you their mom? Like you're going harder than her?" And I'm like, "Boy," but I love my nephews. Joe Marcus was my oldest firstborn nephew, and we grew up together. He was like my son, and I miss him. I miss Jonathan, and it's just hard.
Yeah, it's hard. It's just me and my sister, and we're 7 years apart. And she's the auntie that goes hard. Definitely the auntie will go. But it's funny how the same result is losing a loved one, but it affects everybody different. Because I know she would be like, I'm calling the lawyer, I'm calling the detectives all the time. But you know how it is. Like you get in there, you're like, okay, it's fresh. They're gonna find but the streets know.
Right.
So we're telling them what the streets is saying and what's going on, and then it's just like, oh well, we need someone to point that person in the face and say, hey, they did it.
Yep.
But who's going to do that?
Right.
So I start finding myself doing a self healing, self-help, you know what I mean? And you can't go to a textbook for that.
Right.
It's something you have to sit down and think yourself. And, and I surprised myself because I start like at that moment when God rescued my heart, I'm like, wow, I'm growing. I have growth, you know what I mean? Because, I was like, hey, I'm going out this weekend. I get, in the norm stuff that we do as women or kids are older. And it's just like, wow, I can say, hey, I forgive the person who took my son from me. I'm okay with that. Okay. I'm okay with dealing with the fact that he didn't take my son because he was a mean person. He was a devilish person. He was a sweet person. He was a good guy. You know what I mean? So, because I'm thinking, I raised my son to be this way, but somebody out in these streets hate the way I raised him. So I start blaming myself for that. But then I'm like, no, it's not Armani thing. It's not a me thing. It was that person. You know what I mean? And then I can't fault his parents because you don't know what goes on in our household. Just because you see people with extravagant cars and clothes, you definitely don't know what goes on in their home. So, and I tried to stay away from a lot of that stuff. So I'm constantly shifting every day. And it's a job. So when I think my son laid out in the street alone by himself, but then I'm like, no, I got to think when he was 3 and 4, he was a good kid. He would call me Tina because nobody else called me mom.
Right.
So, and he loved shoes. He'd be like, Tina, you like these shoes? So I have to keep shifting my thoughts. And you know how that is. You have to keep going to good when you're at that moment with bad. And I understand, I respect and love the auntie of it because the auntie will go to the back, they will fight, they will call, and last month my sister was saying, we're doing this and we're going to pay a lawyer and this, and that. And guess what I said? Let it go. Let it go. And I never thought I would be able to say that and not shed a tear. And I'm okay. So, and I know this is my journey, and I always would say, and I tell the ladies, I always was like, what's my journey? What's my purpose? And now I see it. And it's God sent. And I don't let nothing scare me off of it. And you know that. People will call for the group to do different things, and I say, thank you. But that's not my purpose. That's definitely not my purpose. So I want to know, let me see here. Okay, so tell me about the day when you got the phone call.
Um, we were at my sister's shop. We were having a shop talk,
Mhm.
and I get a phone call from my mom, and her voice sounds weird. So I'm like, okay, something's wrong. And she was like, Dom, I need you to come home. They said Joe's been shot. And when she said it, I just remember like I dropped my phone. I did like a 360 spin, and I was like, oh my god, like no. I always feared that this day would come. That day would come, and I just became hot all over. Like it's not real. And I was like, I gotta go. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know. I'm like, okay. You know, she's like, what's going on? He's like, what's going on? I'm like, mom said that he just got shot. So then I'm like, okay, calm down. Okay, he got shot. All right, cool. He got shot in the leg.
Yes.
Shot in the arm.
Yes. Yes.
It's not nothing serious.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, can you take me home? And she was like, all right, cool, come on, I'm going with you. And then I was like, I can't leave my mom's car. Okay, I'm gonna drive home. Then all this traffic from Kennywood. I'm on the horn. Get out the way, I need to get home, need to get home, need to get home. Then I'm like, oh, my mom needs cigarettes. I gotta stop and get cigarettes. Sorry, but I had to get cigarettes. Like, I got the cigarette. Then I'm in the store and I'm like, Kiki, like, no, try not to freak out. And she's trying to keep me calm. And I'm like, Kiki, if something happens to my son, I don't know what I'm gonna do. We finally make it to my parking lot. And after everything in my mom's car, hop in Kiki's car. Now where he was dropped off because I really don't feel he was murdered. As we bent the corner and I seen them red lights, my heart drops. We get out. I walk up. People are coming to me and they're like, I'm like, what happened? They're like, oh, it's some dude named Joker and he got blonde hair. And I'm like, ooh, that's a relief. I'm like, I'm so sorry for whoever's child that is. But my son ain't got no blonde hair. His name is Joker. His name is JoJo. I walk over to one of the policemen that was standing there, and I'm like, I'm trying to see if my son, if he's been shot or whatever. He was like, give me a second, I'm right back. I'm standing there, I'm shaking. I'm like, want to go through this caution tape. I want to see that's my son. Maybe about 2 minutes later, he's like, what's his name? I said his name was Joe Marcus. He said, yes, ma'am, it's him. I don't even think that I felt anything in that moment because I was shocked. Like, this is my firstborn, my baby, my everything. He made me the mother that I am today. Like, he was so likable, so loving, so kind. Who would want to do this to him? And it's like, you had to hate him to kill him. And then, like our morning, they threw him and left him out in the street for hours. And if the bus company didn't call and tell us there was a body in the street, a little kid came to my house and told my mother, my baby, like, what are kids doing seeing something like this? Like the disrespect.
Yeah.
The only thing that gave me peace in that moment was that he never had to worry about being loyal to the wrong people no more. That's the only thing that gave me peace. But I happened to come home and look at my children in the eye and say, "Your breath is gone." They wouldn't let me identify nothing.